Ask yourself this question: why are so many young liberal women so unhappy? Stick around for a couple of minutes, and in this video, I will give you that answer. This video will have 3 parts. Part 1 will be statistics and is it true? Part 2 will be some things to think about as we assess the data. And Part 3 will be the actual reasons why so many liberal young women absolutely are off the charts compared to every other demographic when it comes to victimhood. I used to believe that it might be some sort of an over-exaggeration, but study after study shows the data to be accurate. So let's look at the hard statistics of why this highly educated young group is extremely, comparatively higher in unhappiness and feeling as though they are a victim than any other demographic. So let's jump into part 1. Is this actually true? Some people might believe that it's just conservatives like myself mocking unhappy libs, but do nonpartisan studies actually bear this out? The answer? Yes, they do. The General Social Survey is one of the longest running, reliable sources with information about this issue. It is actually considered to be the gold standard for tracking American happiness. They've been asking Americans about our happiness levels for over 50 years. So if we chart these results by political ideology, conservatives consistently rate themselves happier than liberals. And remember, this is from both men and women alike. And women in general as a whole have reported lower happiness than men since the 1970s. Now, when you overlap both of these things, it puts liberal women at the very bottom of the happiness scale. And this gap, it's not small. By 2022, conservatives were about 15% more likely to say that they are happier than liberals. Let's look at the American Family Survey. It shows exactly the same thing. The data shows that conservative women are more than twice as likely as liberal women to report that they are actually satisfied. The hard statistics, 31% versus 15%. This is a wide gap, you guys, and it's not based on a small sample. This is a nationwide sample with thousands of people over multiple years. Now, when we bring in mental health, it gets even uglier. Let's use one of the most respected organizations in the world, the Pew Research Center. They asked women if a doctor had ever diagnosed them with a mental health condition. Among white liberal women, ages 18 to 29, it's actually 56.3%. This is over double the rate of conservative women that come in around 27%. Now let's move off of the young women to liberal women between 30 and 49. And it's still significantly more at 39.7%. versus for conservative women of the same age group, 26%. Now let's look at some long-term data from the Monitoring the Future study. This source has been tracking adolescent mental health since the 1970s. Between 2005 and 2018, depressive symptoms shot up for everyone. But the biggest change going upward was for liberal girls. And young liberal women, the average depression score went from 2.02 to 2.75 on a 0 to 4 scale. That's enormous. Guys, this is clinical level depression that's creeping in. Now, this is where it gets interesting. The trending didn't just rise and stop. It accelerated big time after 2010. And what was the big thing that was gaining steam around that year, 2010 or so? That's right. It's right about the time that social media becomes commonplace. Overall, guys, this data is brutal if you are a liberal woman under the age of 30. And these women report lower happiness levels, higher mental illness rates, and increased depression and anxiety. This is also why the use of SSRIs has skyrocketed for this particular demographic. This brings us to part 2. Now, I want you to ask yourself this question. What do you think? Put this in the comment section. Is it actually just being liberal that seems to show young women becoming unhappy like this? Or is it the flip side where we're just seeing who is more willing to admit that they have struggles? Now, what we do find is that this age category of liberal women are much more likely to seek out and want to talk about therapy. And they're extremely forward about any type of mental health struggles. Unfortunately, this has become a flex for them. And in psychology, we call this victimhood mentality. This transforms their pain and their trauma into a core identity. This brings attention, a feeling of moral superiority, and protection from any type of personal responsibility. And this is a badge of honor in the current social media landscape. You see, currently our social situation rewards people for demonstrating or sharing about their struggles or their pain. This unfortunately also brings avoidance of responsibility. This is where someone who considers themselves to be a victim gets to evade any type of personal responsibility for their own actions or any negative situations that they are involved in, because they can blame external factors instead of themselves. And the worst part about it is the current social setting that we are in not only rewards this, but the more helpless that you can appear, the more social status you are given. So let's get to part 3, the reasons why this is happening. Ask yourself, is it something about liberal politics itself that makes some people feel miserable? Or are there bigger cultural, personal, and psychological patterns that are going on? And this is the good stuff, folks. If you've been here this long, pay attention and write this down, because 5 things pop out at this point. Number 1, for conservatives, marriage and family provides what people on the other side of the aisle don't generally have. In decades of social science research, marriage and family are the highest predictors of happiness of all of the input data. And this shows up everywhere, from the General Social Survey to the American Family Survey. Conservatives are far more likely to get married than liberals. From young women ages 18 to 55, 56% of these young women are married, compared to between 35 and 37% for liberal women. That is a 20-point happiness gap. So we're not sure. Does marriage make people happy, or do happy people like to get married? But guys, listen, even when we control the data for income, education, and all other variables, the marriage effect still shows up all across the culture. But it's not just marriage. This is actually family life in general. See, conservative women get married younger and have children younger, whereas liberal women tend to delay marriage and kids or skip both. And the number 2 thing is, of course, social media. After 2010, depression levels for liberal young women skyrocketed. So young women are constantly comparing themselves to everyone else. There's all types of moral posturing where the more victim points that you get, the more important and high status you become. And these platforms become a place for public self-diagnosis, looking for attention and affirmation. So what does this mean? Being a victim is rewarded. Number 3, big surprise, is the political climate. After the 2016 election, young liberal women, their attitudes tanked when it came to reporting happiness. Now, this isn't a coincidence. If you believe the world is on fire and you feel it's your moral duty to fix it, you are always carrying what's called a low-grade sense of doom. Now, for young liberal women, when your identity is rooted in a sense of crisis, you're going to feel more anxious, more hopeless, and more exhausted. Now, number 4, and this one is not popular with the other side of the fence, but it's true. It's the LGBT factor. According to Gallup, and they are very reliable, 38% of liberal women under the age of 30 self-identify as LGBT. That's nearly 4 in every 10. For conservatives, that same number is just shy of 3%. This is a big deal because LGBT people across every single demographic report higher rates of depression, along with anxiety and suicidal thoughts. And then reason number 5, more self-analysis. I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but there is proof that therapy culture in and of itself is a huge part of this problem. So this type of self-identification with this particular demographic is huge. Journaling, trauma unpacking, inner child wounding, and constantly revisiting and regurgitating every single bad thing that ever happened to you. There's a direct correlation with the more that you malinger or just ruminate about being sad and having sadness and anxiety, the more deeply you are dragged into that quicksand. Now, conservatives, on the other hand, instead of being more central focused about self, they're more focused God, country, family, these sorts of things. So it's external focus instead of internal focus. And this is one of the many reasons why there's such a huge difference in the gap between the depression and the anxiety of liberals versus conservatives. Now, ask yourself, does being liberal cause this type of lifestyle of depression and anxiety? Or is it people that already have these issues that are more apt to lean into progressivism and fighting causes that are too big to solve? So there's always a cause to fight. Think about it and put what you think in a comment section.